where does the time go? All right, so in about 2 weeks' time, or I guess a little over 2 weeks' time, we will see the actual Stanley Cup being awarded. Either the Florida Panthers or the Edmonton Oilers will be holding said Stanley Cup high above their heads, drinking out of it, all that other fun stuff. And so let us preview how this final could go. One thing I want to point out is the number one team in terms of record from January 1st until the start of the playoffs was the Carolina Hurricanes. Number two, the Edmonton Oilers with a 698 points percentage. Number three, the Florida Panthers a 696 points percentage. That does happen often where the teams that are playing really well in that calendar year going into the playoffs end up having a pretty good run. Of course, overall, Florida, 52, 24, and 6, 110 points. That's why they have home ice advantage, thus the team that's on the left side of the board. The road team, though, 49, 27, and 6, 104 points. Edmonton, very comfortable on the road. Both of these teams very comfortable on the road. Honestly, there isn't really an advantage that way. I think that wherever they're playing, both of these teams can play really, really well. They play a similar style as well. I pointed out to Yvonne during last night's game between Edmonton and Dallas that both Florida and Edmonton are very good at suppressing shots against. So both of them are going to be trying to play the same style of game. Who's going to be successful? We shall see. So we'll start off talking about Florida. Their run to the Stanley Cup final started in Tampa. They won that series in 5. They outscored Tampa Bay in that series 20-14. Bobrovsky with an 896 save percentage. They then moved on to play Boston. They won that series in 6 by a score of 19-13 in total. Bobrovsky, 907 save percentage for Bobrovsky, so his save percentage gets better. And then this past round against the New York Rangers, they win it in 6 again. They outscore the Rangers 16-12. Bobrovsky, a 921 save percentage. Thus the goalie magnet being here. I thought, well, I'll put the goalie magnet next to which round the goalie was the best in, and it's kind of the same for both goaltenders. But we'll stay on the Florida side and we'll talk about their top 8 scorers. Tkachuk, 5 goals, 14 assists, 19 points. Wants to get this done. And Florida's been very clear that getting to the final isn't enough. Not like the Oilers are standing there going, oh, no, we're good. We don't need to win a cup. Both teams are going to say very similar things, right? For Hagee, 9 goals, 8 assists, 17 points for him. Barkov, 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points. Barkov, one of the best two-way forwards in the game, if not the best two-way forward in the game. And the fact he just won the Selke, now he has the joy of trying to stop McDavid. Reinhart, 8 goals, 4 assists, 12 points. It's the last chance, of course, for Reinhart to get some points and goals and maybe boost his value a little bit more going into his unrestricted free agent period in July. Lundell, 3 goals, 9 assists, 12 points, has been very good. Forsling, 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points. Gustav Forsling has had an amazing playoffs. He has been one of the best defenders in the league over this past season. And so I look for Forsling to turn some heads in this series as well. Sam Bennett, 12 games, 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points. So when Bennett's in the lineup, he's productive. I do expect Bennett to get under the skin of the Edmonton Oilers, probably their fans as well. He's done a good job of upsetting fans in a couple of series so far. I can't think of anything that happened in the Tampa series with Bennett, but with the Rangers and Boston, yep. Montour, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points for him. Then you got Tarasenko, veteran who has that 2019 Stanley Cup ring. 3 goals, 3 assists for him. Ekblad has 5 assists so far in the playoffs. Of course, he was the number 1 draft pick in 2014, which is something that got pointed out, that the top 4 draft picks from 2014 are all in this series. You've got Ekblad, you've got Draisaitl, you've got Bennett, and you've got Reinhart. So they're all here. Pozo's looking for his first Stanley Cup in 11 games in the playoffs. He has 2 assists thus far. So we'll go over to the Edmonton side, and then we'll talk about the comparisons between the teams directly. Edmonton starts the playoffs with a 5-game series against the LA Kings. They outscored LA 22-13 in the series. Skinner, a 910 save percentage. He did have a couple of ugly games in that series, but in the end, he ended up being pretty good. Then against Vancouver, a 7-game series. I would say the most hotly contested series, and maybe the loudest in terms of fans going at one another. 24-20 was the score in favor of Edmonton in that series. Skinner with an 833 save percentage. It was a rough round, and that has dragged down his overall numbers. But against Dallas, he was very good. They won that series in 6, even though I was told before the series that, well, Dallas matches up much better against Edmonton. Nope. 17-14 was the score in favor of Edmonton. It was a low-scoring series. Skinner had a .923 save percentage in that series. So Skinner's getting better at the right time. Bobrovsky's been getting better at the right time. Not that Bobrovsky was playing poorly, and not that Skinner's played poorly overall. He just does have the occasional ugly stat line game, which does pull him out of the conversation of like best goalies in the league. But not every team has to have a best goalie in the league to win. And so yeah, that's where we're at with the Oilers. McDavid, 5 goals, 26 assists, 31 points. In the event that the Oilers win this Stanley Cup, he is going to end up with the Conn Smythe. There's no way he doesn't get it. Draisaitl will be close though. 10 goals, 18 assists, 28 points. Bouchard, 6 goals, 21 assists, 27 points. Paul Coffey has had a lot of praise, and rightfully so, for helping to shepherd along Bouchard and make him a better defenseman. Nugent Hopkins, 6 goals, 14 assists, 20 points. Will be trying to do to Florida's attack what Barkov is going to try to do to Edmonton's attack. So it'll be a matchup between two pretty darn good two-way forwards there. Hyman, 14 goals, 4 assists, 18 points. He doesn't go very many games without a goal in these playoffs, so he'll be dangerous and one to watch. Evander Kane, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. Mixed bag with Evander Kane in the playoffs so far, but if he gets a Stanley Cup ring, he'll be pretty happy as well. Ekholm, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. I have nothing bad to say about Ekholm. I never have. He's a fantastic defenseman. And Kulak, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points for Kulak. Kind of surprising he's in the top 8. But Adam Henrique has missed some playoffs, so he's played 10 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. That experience is important. Darnell Nurse takes a lot of criticism. He has 3 assists in the playoffs. That criticism is basically because of his contract. I don't think it's as much to do with his play as the contract, because it always comes back to the contract. I'm not going to say he's had a perfect playoffs, but I think he's been better than people give him credit for. And then Corey Perry. So Corey Perry does have a Stanley Cup ring. I've seen people saying, oh, he's never winning a cup. No, he had a ring from 2007 with the Ducks. He has, though, gone back to the final and lost repeatedly. So we'll see whether or not he's able to win the Stanley Cup this time around and get that second ring. So Corey Perry just has the 1 assist in 13 games. Due for a goal. It's a Stanley Cup final series. We shall see. But we're definitely going to see a Stanley Cup awarded to a team that doesn't have a ton of Stanley Cup rings in their locker room, and I think that's great. I love to see new players, new teams getting to win the championship. So when we look at the comparison, the goals for slightly favor the Oilers. 3.5 goals per game versus the 3.24 goals scored per game by Florida. I do think that Florida's played against teams that are a little better defensively than Edmonton has in their 3 series thus far. And it's close. It's very, very small difference. And then the goals against, that favors Florida, 2.29 goals against per game, 2.61 for the Oilers. That's a bit deceptive because to get to that 2.61 being higher, there's a couple of rough games for the Oilers that definitely drag that number up. That number is much better than it was, for instance, in the series against Vancouver, where they did have their struggles at times. The power plays, well, Edmonton's power play was cold against Dallas, and then it wasn't. And so they end up at 37% so far in these playoffs. For Florida, 23%. And special teams are huge in this series. Both teams excellent on the penalty kill. 94% for the Oilers. They've killed 28 in a row, which means either it's going to go to 32, 33, 34, and we're going to keep talking about it, or Florida scores on their first power play in the final. One or the other, I think, is what's going to happen. 88% penalty kill for the Florida Panthers. So they've done a very good job of shutting down power plays. And with respect to Tampa, Boston, and the Rangers, I don't think their power plays are as dangerous as Edmonton's. And I say that even though the Rangers one of the best power plays during the regular season. But yeah, I think the Oilers' power play will be a bit more of a handful. I do think Florida can kill that off, though. Hits per 60 minutes. So I've been looking at hits throughout the playoffs. Florida's the more physical of the two teams. 42.48 hits per 60 minutes. The Oilers are going to have to deal with that too. They hit at a rate of 30.48 hits per 60 minutes. Blocked shots favors the Oilers, but just barely. The Oilers at 16.51 hits per 60 minutes played, whereas Florida's at 15.35. I would not be surprised to see some overtime in this series. I would not be surprised to see this series go 6 or 7 games. And I think it'll be highly entertaining. I am not weighing in with which jersey I'm wearing. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I do expect that most people will probably take Florida, but this, to me, just on the surface of it, it looks close. Most of these playoff series have been close, despite the comment section making it sound like one team got annihilated by the other. There have been way too many one-goal games in these playoffs to be discussing annihilation or total destruction of a team. That's called, just eking out the wins here and there. You get the wins, yes, but it's not an annihilation or destruction, a complete extermination of a team. Both of these teams have been in really close games, which should benefit them in the final. One thing that might favor the Oilers a bit, it feels like they've been in more one-goal games than has Florida. They might be a little more comfortable, but again, it's just you can give the edge to Florida, I think, in goal. I think saying Bobrovsky over Skinner, I think I can make that argument. But Skinner can be good, and Edmonton's so good at making sure there's no traffic in front of the net, which Florida can challenge. They have some guys who can crash that net and really cause things to be miserable. Rodriguez isn't on the board, but he's a guy that comes to mind that can absolutely do that net crashing. And I think defensively, the Oilers have finally, I think, got the respect they deserve for their defense being pretty good. On the Florida side, their defense, overall excellent from top to bottom. So I think this is going to be a really remarkable final series. I do expect really high ratings on both sides of the border because it's Connor McDavid's chance to go for a Stanley Cup. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.